How's up, y'all? It's Poppin' Z. About to react to this vid. This is really bad therapist stories. Uh-oh. Not in this day and age where therapy is golden for everybody. Everybody want to throw therapy around. Get therapy. Everybody needs therapy. Y'all not keeping in mind that there are so many bad therapists out there. There are so many people who taking advantage of others because they are disguising themselves as this all-knowing therapist who can fix your life, but they be fucked up themselves. That's the wild part. Not saying there's anything wrong with therapy. I'll give my own personal opinion about all of that at the end. I think it can definitely be beneficial to a lot of people, but we gotta remember that therapists they're not God. They're not all knowing. They're flawed human beings just like me and you. So they could definitely lead you down the wrong path for sure. So just be aware of that. But anyway, let's see what these people's therapy stories sound like. Let's watch.
We normalize that really bad therapists exist. If you have a story time, I'd like to.
I have a huge problem with emotions, showing emotions, and especially crying. I haven't cried since the appointment that I'm going to talk about right now. And before that, I hadn't cried since I was a little child. I was discouraged from crying as a child. I was taught that I was always to be calm and collected. And my phone died there for a moment. And basically, when I started crying like 10 sessions in, it was a huge moment for me. But what this therapist decided to do was she looked at me and she went, "Stop crying. If there's one thing I hate most in the world, it's people who pity themselves." And not gonna lie, that stayed with me.
We normalize that really bad therapists exist.
Throughout my life, I've been seeing therapists since I was about 7 or 8 years old. My first therapist was by far the least helpful. I don't know what his method was. This is not to bash him, but I don't understand how it was supposed to help me. This is how a normal session would go when he came to my house. Pick any item out of your room. We're gonna talk about it. Okay, I got this purple ribbon. My aunt got it for me when I was about really young, and I really like it. And what do you think of the color purple? Oh, it's really pretty. I like it in the sunset, and it reminds me of when me and my dad used to just go out and look. What's your favorite thing about the sunset? So it would go on like this for about an hour, and he would ask me seemingly extremely random questions, and then as soon as I got super into it, he would cut me off and completely change the subject. Mind you, I was getting help for self-harm at the time. I don't know what this method was. If it works for you, it works for you, but it did nothing for me.
Really bad
How do you
therapists
feel?
exist. If you have a story
What makes
time,
you
I'm
say
gonna
that?
tell you a very subpar recreation. Hi Morgan, so you brought your sketchbook this week. I know that's something that you really wanted to share with me. Yeah, you asked me to bring it in. Awesome, so let's see. What is this page about? It's fan art. And this one? It's fan art. What's this one? It's an original character. This one seems to be pretty dark. So this one says hold your breath. But then right next to it, it says breathe. Yeah, I just wanted to fill the space. I really didn't notice that I did that. What do you think your thought process was about that? I didn't really notice it. I think that it means that you're drowning in your emotions and you don't know how to express it. This is how you feel. I know it because of this drawing. But I just told you that's not how I'm feeling. Okay, and so what's this one? It's Daniel Howell. And what's this one?
can we normalize that really bad therapists exist? If you have a story time, I'd like to hear it. I'll go first. I'll reenact this one.
So I know a couple of times we've spoken about antidepressants. Have you thought about like whether you'd like to take them or not? Have you thought any more about that?
Yeah, so I thought about taking them, but I'm not really comfortable with it yet. I'm kind of just happy with talking about my feelings. I find that helpful. I hope that's okay.
You're really not helping yourself now, are you?
Oh,
Can we
damn.
normalize that really bad therapists exist?
Finally, a storytime trend that I can get in on. This is gonna have to be a two-parter because there's just too much, so just hold on.
Jesus.
So I've seen therapists for a long time. I've been really mentally ill since I was 13, so I've seen a lot of people. I've had my variety of experiences from therapists that are good to nah to like horrible. most recent experience was with a woman, let's call her Karen. I was really struggling, crying at every session, having a really hard time, and was saying that I just can't do this. I can't work. It's too hard for me. And she said, I shit you not, that she works 3 jobs and has 3 kids, so if she can do it, so can I. That's where I started to feel a little uncomfortable. Stay tuned for part 2. Bad Therapist part 2. So she tells me basically, like, I have it worse, so you can do it. And I'm just like, okay. So we move on, and she keeps pushing me, and she's like, you should go back to school, you should do this, you should do that. Like, you're really intelligent and capable, which I'm aware of. The problem isn't that. The problem is that my mental health is a full-time job, and I can't add another full-time job on top of it. So we go back and forth with this, whatever. Eventually, I have a breakdown at my job, and I said, I'm sorry, I need to take time off for my mental health. So I decided to take a leave of absence and go to a partial hospital program. Obviously, I clue Karen in. I tell her, I'm taking some time off work to go into the partial hospital program. Like, I really need this. I'm really in a hard spot. She says, I wish you had talked to me first, but whatever, do what you have to do. And I'm so sorry, but this is going to have a part 3.
Oh, jeez.
Bad Therapist part 3. Filming from a different angle because I have many cats here.
Yeah.
So I'm in the partial program and, talking to the therapist, getting the treatment that I need, getting better. I reach out to her because they decided to discharge me. I have my discharge date, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to make an appointment so that I can see you and transition out of the program. And she's like, do you have time to talk now? And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Like, I'm still in the partial program. I have lunch, and I can talk to you then. So I video call with her, and she breaks up with me. She says that me taking the mental leave without consulting her first made her uncomfortable. And that asking her to sign off on paperwork saying that I'm severely mentally ill also made her uncomfortable. But she didn't tell me any of this, and it's my fault. There's more to this story.
Okay, girl,
I'm still
done.
very angry about it, but that's the gist.
Can we normalize that really bad therapists exist?
Oh boy, yes they do. I had to report my former therapist to the board for violating ethics, but I came up with a really cool hack on something you can do with a new therapist to find out if they are a good therapist or not. This may not work for everyone, but it works for most people. During the 2nd or 3rd session, ask your therapist if they would be comfortable with doing a couples or family session for you. Spoiler alert, the answer should be no. If your therapist is your primary therapist, it would be a violation of ethics to do a couples or family session with you because it is a conflict of interest. If they care about ethics and care about you, they will say no. If they care about the money and care about the business, they will say yes. With my former therapist, whenever I brought up the slightest relationship issue, he jumped at the chance to be my couples therapist. He said, I'll do it. Red flag alert. Hope this tip helps you.
I definitely had a therapist and then introduced a boyfriend I had at the time.
I'd like to hear it.
I had a therapist once make me brush her golden retriever as a means to help me deal with all the racism and bullying I faced as a 10-year-old living in a racist part of town in Ohio. Yeah. Really, grooming a golden retriever was going to help me get through the fact that a white girl told me that she didn't want my N-word skin rubbing off on her. Yeah, grooming your dog was really going to help me get through the fact that some white boys held me down and made me eat wood chips and told me that I had to since I was the color of dirt. Yeah, that therapy really helped me get through the Klan calling my house and threatening to M-word me. Me and that golden retriever had some good times. I was 10. I was fucking 10, y'all.
Nah, I would have to find her as an adult. I would have to find her, track her down somehow. I need some revenge of some sort. Obviously not me putting my hands on you, but I need to sue or something because that's just too wild. But this reminds me of this fucking therapist that I had maybe a few years ago. I had locks in my head, and this bitch asked me literally in the middle of our session, is that weave? I swear on my life. She was an older white lady, and I was like, bitch, I'm pouring my heart out to you and you asking me, is my locks weaved? Like, girl, mind your goddamn business. First off, this ain't got nothing to do with shit that I'm talking about. Like, and why would you fix your mouth to ask me that? I never went back to her again. I was getting emails from her, like, all type of shit. She was trying to reach out and be like, oh, is everything okay? Blocked, bitch. I'm never going back to you again. You ignorant as fuck. Like, oh, that was annoying. But my personal opinion about therapy, this is my opinion, okay? I think it can be very effective for people who are really struggling with their mental health and they have really traumatic experiences and they're struggling getting through everyday life. I think that they could definitely provide you with some coping tools and they can be of great assistance. But, you know, from my experience and what I believe that is if you're able to cope for the most part and you're able to manage your mental health in a relatively normal manner, I don't think therapy is that effective. I think at that point, that's where spirituality will take you far. And of course, this is personal opinion because not everybody believes in spirituality. Sure, do whatever the fuck you want to do. But for me, it was just like, all right. Because I know all the basic principles. I know how to manage my mental health. I'm not struggling with depression or I'm not, you know, really struggling with day-to-day activities and I'm not having any really hard times in my life and with my mental health. So it's just like, all right, I'm talking to you about, at that point, I feel like they start trying to reach too for shit. Like they're trying to find like things wrong with you per se. And you got to keep in mind, people are getting paid. Let's be clear, they're getting paid. So after a while, I personally felt like they were reaching. It was kind of like, oh, well, what about that incident? But how did that make you feel? And this, and it's just like, girl, I don't have a problem with that though. So you're trying to find a problem in some shit that I'm telling you I got a problem with. You feel me? So for me, after a certain point, I didn't feel like therapy was effective anymore. I felt like spirituality definitely was the next step. I didn't know at the time, but eventually over time it occurred, and I feel like that has taken me much farther than therapy ever has. But therapy works for a lot of people and they find great use in it. If it's working for you, then great. If you think it could work for you in the future, amazing. Keep at it. But just for me, it was just like, all right, because this is another flawed ass human being. And honestly, you're going to be in therapy for the rest of your life. Sorry to break it to you, but there's always going to be something wrong with you. By nature, we as human beings, we're flawed, we're fucked up. So it's always going to be some shit you need to fix. And a lot of people, they take a lifelong journey and trying to fix some shit. And it's like, listen, spirituality has really helped me get in touch with my true being, and that has brought me more peace and awareness than any therapy session I have ever had. So that's just my opinion on it. But yeah, sure, if you want to go to therapy, have fun. And other people feel like that about their religion. You know, people who are religious, they feel like that, to where, oh, God has taken me further than any therapy can take me. And I feel like for them that might be the case, you know. But yeah, I don't think I'll go back to therapy again, just because for so long it was just like, this is not helping. this is not giving what I'm trying to get from it. Anyway, these are definitely some crazy stories though. Y'all let me know what y'all thought. Let me know what other videos you want to watch, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.